All right, hello everybody, and let's get started. Today is a very special day. It's a webinar, and during this webinar, we're going to cover an earnings report. What is the best way that a company can report to the audience is through an earnings report, and it happens 4 times a year. In the U.S., of course, companies report 4 times a year, and 1 time a year they have a yearly report. Now, the quarterly earnings report are watched very closely by investors across the world because they show um, what is actually happening within the company. And I'll give you some examples of things to watch out for. And so after watching this webinar, after participating, you should be able to navigate an earnings report and come up with your own conclusions as to where the company's trajectory will be in the near future. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to share with you guys, well, the first thing that I want to do is I want to ask you which companies you would like for me to report. So first of all, hello and welcome to everybody in chat. This is a live webinar, so don't be shy. You guys go ahead and ask questions and make sure you try to understand as much as possible about the topic. Now, what I would like to call upon you guys is look through your list of stocks. Have a look at the stocks that are available for you to trade on the Olymp trade platform. And out of those, if you guys could, go ahead and give me some names. What we're going to do is we're going to add them to a fun spin the wheel game. And at the end of the webinar, we'll pick 2 companies together that we will randomly choose and analyze together. The first one will be Visa, and I will quickly go through and show you where we can add those. So Tinker is the first one. He called for Amazon, and then he called for Netflix. I absolutely love both companies. Google and Keat, that's a good suggestion. Google will definitely be in here. Let me show you guys what we're working with. So this is what I'm creating here, a little spin the wheel for you guys. What other companies come to your mind? So what we're doing is we're looking here on it can be the Forex platform or the FTT platform. Keep in mind some stocks are different. But personally myself, I am looking for the Caterpillar trade to continue up higher. This was a major up movement, so Caterpillar is my pick. I hope we get to talk about that. So as the webinar goes on, if you guys have any more questions for me, go ahead and let me know, and I will try to answer them for you. So public traded companies, all of these companies that are right here, they are, most of them are US, AAA, really good investment grade stocks. So all of these are blue chip companies on the US stock market. Now, all of these companies right here, they are required by law to file certain financial reports. So public companies, they're required to file this 10Q. It's called the 10Q financial report 4 times a year, and a 10K, which is the yearly report, 1 time a year with the Securities and Exchange Commission. I have their website open for you guys right here, sec.gov. They're actually the official place where you can go to get these reports. Now, we're looking for, say, something like Visa. You just type in the ticker of the stock. So we have it here, the stock ticker for Visa. And you can see the official right here, the 10K quarterly report. This is for the first quarter that was filed in March 31st. Now, I'm just going to show you what the official 10K looks like report so you guys can see, and then I'll show you some other places where you can get the extracted information. But this is from the source, and it comes in 2 parts. So the first part is the financial statement, and then part 2 is a discussion between the officers in the company, between the CEO and the board of directors. They talk about market risks, they talk about internal risks, and other kind of things that that may affect the company, and we'll talk about this later. The main components of the income statement are of the 10K are the income statement, which you can find right here in the financial statement, the balance sheet, which you can find, and you can click on any one of these links and go directly to the report. And the main thing here is to see that they are for March 31st, 2021, so for the first quarter, and September 30th for 2020. This means that this was the last quarter of the year that this is the reporting. So you compare two of the last quarters. Now, in my mind, this is a little bit too short of a time frame, so I look in other places to see kind of a broader picture. What else you can find here? You can look for disclosures and the management discussion, but that comes in part 2. So again, if we go here to part 2, we're going to talk about legal issues the company may be having, risk factors, and any kind of unregistered sales of securities. Now, you can find this information actually in FinViz. This is all the registered sales of the company. So again, here we click the top stock ticker V, open up FinViz, and then right at the very bottom, something that people always miss is insider trading. The people that own shares and are officers within the company, they play a major role. They're required by law to report any kind of sales of their own stock in the company that they represent. So again, you can find that these different reporting features that come out, they are going to be inside those reports. Now, what else can we find within the 10Q? Besides looking at the financial statements, you can also have a look at, like I said, financial risks, any lawsuits that they may have, and heavy debt. Again, guys, let's have a look at where the debt is. It's very important that you have a look at what the debt burden is. So right here under liabilities, all of these liabilities are different payouts that the company has to take part in. So if you see that their liabilities are growing, and their earnings are falling, then there's an issue there. The company is mismanaged, and something is inevitably wrong. And the more you look at these reports, the more you study them, the easier it will be. Don't think that after watching this half-an-hour video, you're going to learn all of these little details. This is the extraction. This financial report is in an extraction. It's like condensed financial information, and so it'll take you some time before you get prolific at reading it. Now, what else happens before an earnings report? So say a company like Visa is looking their press release. By the way, when can we find out when the next release is? Well, type this in. You type in NASDAQ Visa earnings. And you will see, because Visa is listed on the NASDAQ index, the NASDAQ search just brings it up very quickly and very clearly. So we're looking for the next earnings report to be released on the 27th of July. But as we get closer and closer to this time, the earnings report may change. And so this is just an announcement of when they should have it. So again, it's not concrete, but you can now put it in your calendar and now watch out for this earnings report in the beginning. So now that we found that there's when the next earnings report is, usually a company will have a press conference where either a representative or the general director, depends on how the company is managed, will stand in front of an audience of news members or news companies, and they will ask and answer all sorts of questions. And in this press release, they'll read, sometimes, it's about a paragraph of a statement. They'll outline some of their key interests or key investments that they made. They'll outline their revenue, their cash flow, their earnings per share, and dividends. So these are usually the 4 things that you will read or you'll hear in the news conference. Now, they also release like a presentation for investors, a presentation deck, it's called. And you can, again, Google that up. So you go to investors Visa. It'll be something like travel.state.gov. That's not what we're looking for. Investors Visa stock. It'll be usually like an investors.visa.com site. Again, you can look at it. Here we go. Again, investors.visa.com. That's exactly where it is. And you can usually get all the information about a press release here, the presentation, and sometimes they will go on and do like a press conference, like I said. This is prepared specifically for investors, and it will always contain a positive message. I have yet to hear a company come forth and say, we're doing extremely, this is a very difficult time for us. We don't think we're going to meet our targets, and we expect the company to flounder for the rest of the year, for the next half of the year. Never have heard that. So what that means is that these are always skewed and biased to buy, and everything's good. So where can you read the actual truth? The actual information is right here in the 10Q. This is where they cannot lie, where in front of the government and by law, they are required to tell the picture as it is. So now let's get into reading this this report. So the 10Q information, let me show you guys some easier ways. So besides going through each and every one of these numbers, which I think it'll bog you down, you know that this is where it is. Let's see where else we can read this information. Well, we go to google.com/finance. It's an aggregate of financial services, and type in your ticker. Again, we're looking at Visa. Popping that open, and we have just a basic stock. We have news highlights for the last few hours. This is important. Very easy to go in and see if there's some kind of scandal or any kind of, especially if you have several $1,000s worth of stock, you're going to be wanting to monitor what's happening throughout the day, and this is one of the ways you can get your information directly. So here we have something about if you know nothing about the company, and here we go to financial performance. This is our quarterly performance, where we have in green is the net revenue, and then yellow is the net income and how they are based. So basically, revenue is the flat money that is generated by the company, and net income is what they actually keep after paying out salaries, after paying out taxes, after paying off debt, things like that. So that is our income. And you can see a larger graph over the last few years. This is why I like Google Finance, is because we have this little graph and I can see, okay, the company is making slight and steady gains, and we have these certain changes. Now, tech stocks in specific are doing really wonky this year. So if you look at some of the year-to-year changes, you will see a lot of negative movements on some really big tech stocks. We have the likes of Amazon that's been in a flat. We have the likes of Facebook and Google becoming very volatile and very unpredictable in the second half of the year. So these statistics are what you're wanting to monitor. If this is a small startup company or even a mid-cap company, you want all of these changes to be becoming better and better every year. And that's it. Then the report finishes. But this is not enough information. What about all the other things that I showed you? Well, again, this is at a glance for somebody who wants to know the basics. If you want a more deeper dive into the financial data, here we go to finance.yahoo.com. finance.yahoo.com. Same thing, you put in the stock ticker in the search bar, and it gives you a little information window about the active stock ticker. That's not exactly what we want. Again, we have the news highlights, and you can click on all of these little tabs that they have here. There's some really good information. Like I said, the more you read through this information, the more you will understand how to read it. And something, if it becomes new to you, just go ahead instantly. Very easy. Let's see something that's difficult maybe for you guys. Implied shares outstanding. How many of you guys know what implied shares outstanding is? Go ahead and ask that in chat. For those of you that don't know, with Google Chrome or other browsers, I'm sure you right-click on it and you go search for that value, and then boom, we have exactly what it is. So little by little, you can learn to read the income statement much better and much quicker if I just breeze through what each one of these things means for you. But again, a lot of the data here at a glance in statistics. But what we're looking for is right here under financials, because we want a comparison of all this data across several years. This is exactly what we're looking for. So this is annually. We can have a look at the multiple years, and this is quarterly and goes back to 2 years ago. Excuse me, 1 year ago. It goes back to 1 year ago. So annually is what I prefer to look at because when I trade in stocks on the Olymp trade platform, I trade for quite a long time. So I want to be catching the down of any stock that is very strong in its financials and in its income statement. And so this is what we get in the income statement for the 10Q that we have. We have the income statement, then we have the balance sheet. Let me go ahead and expand all of this out. So the total revenue, operating revenue, is basically how much they're making from all of their operations. The cost of revenue, this is what is going to be subtracted from the operating revenue. This is what it costs to make that money, what it costs to pay the employees, what it costs to pay those branch managers that operate and their engineers and everything that goes into generating the operating revenue. So the gross profit is what they have at the end of it. This is how much money that company makes. This gross profit then goes into shares outstanding, like to pay dividends, and gets reinvested into any kind of research and development or acquisitions that the company may be involved in. So operating expenses, then we can get down a little bit deeper. We have selling and general administrative costs. General and administrative here under other, selling and marketing expenses. This is how much they are paying for marketing. Depreciating amortization. This is how much things are depreciating over time. Like say you have a company vehicle. Each year vehicles are worth less and less. It's a very bad investment, and so depreciation and amortization is the part of your accounting that is applied to things that lose value over time. There's a really thin line, I think, to where what you can put into this category. Nonetheless, it is there for any kind of real estate and any kind of items you may have that may depreciate over time. Operating income is the income that we receive. It is very similar to operating revenue. So operating income, not non-operating interest, income, expenses. A lot of these will not have a major effect on your investment activities with the companies, and sometimes these documents, they can be very long. They can get up to 100 pages or more for some of these multinational companies. So what some traders do is they skip all of the financial information, and then they drop down to what the any kind of discussion that the management may be having about what's going on in the market, price fluctuations, risks, all of these things you can find here at the bottom. Sometimes it can be very boring, like we have here for Visa. Sometimes it can be huge for Johnson & Johnson. Let's go ahead and have a look at J&J, because they've been, they had to get rid of almost 1 million doses of their vaccine that they were planning, some for export, some for internal use, but almost 1 million vaccine doses. That's a huge loss for the company. So absolutely wondering how their filings are looking. Let's go have a look together. So savings, not what we need. Do there other filings? Quarterly report for the first. There we go. So no legal proceedings. Here we have, and this is insider trading that they're doing, their own internal. I think this is buybacks. This is stock buybacks that they have done, or that they plan to do. So you can actually see when stock buybacks are planned to do, because no, this is how much they already did in the quarter. So also very good information that you can find here. So like I said, other traders, they skip to the bottom of the earnings report. But what do you want to look out for? What are the key areas that you want to look out for? By the way, let me know in chat. Do you want me to continue on on this document, or should I transition into the visa screener so that it can be a little bit more easier to read? I'm going to go ahead and read your questions, see if I missed anything. Because we're focusing on earnings report, guys, I'm not going to go into detail about indicators. So please come to another one of my webinars or have a look at some of our history of our videos on the channel. They are really so Facebook also. Yeah, we had somebody ask for Facebook. Yeah, by the way, if you guys have any other stocks you want to look at today, 3M is also a great company, made a lot of money on the coronavirus pandemic, still continues to be a major supplier of the US government. Very good that you talk about that. So that was Shamanarayana. Shiyamanarayanaman Murya. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I do enjoy saying it, though. Your name is awesome. Okay, so no questions for the time being. Let me continue with the report here, just so that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So here in financial information. Right. So you should be focusing on, and write this down, you guys. This is where you should be writing things down. What you want to focus on is revenue, net income, earnings per share, and EBITDA, which is earnings before interest and taxes. Those are the four statistics you really want to be looking at. So once again, net income, and you want to be looking at that they're growing. Remember, this is TTM is till this year, for the last 12 months. Trailing 12 months, yeah. So trailing 12 months, that's what we have for the TTM. This was last year on September. September 2 years ago, September 3 years ago. All right, so we're looking for net income, earnings per share, EBITDA is right here, earnings before interest and taxes, and taxes. You want to be looking at how well did the company perform over the last quarter. So here we have quarterly fluctuations. How much money was earned over the last quarter? How did the company's performance compare over the previous quarter or to the previous year? So this is another perfect comparison. You want to make sure that we have yearly growth, not considering the coronavirus pandemic, during which the company actually did surprisingly well. Have revenues improved or taken a hit on a quarter-to-quarter basis? This is very important. Quarterly revenue, is it going up? Gross quarterly profit, is it going up? Is the cost of sales increasing? The cost of revenue and cost of sales, is that growing? Right here, this category. Is it more expensive to bring in more money? That's what we also want to find out. In certain markets, say in the US or the UK, there's too much of a certain product, of a certain service. Those things can be seen for how hard the company is working to generate more and more profit. And like we talked about the so that was only the income statement. Here we have the balance sheet. The total assets is all of the holdings of the company that they have, including, again, real estate, including any items of stock that they may have that falls under current assets, total assets. It's not necessarily best that the company accumulates assets. You want working capital to be growing, invested capital to be growing, so the company kind of grows wholesomely. You do not want total debt to become out of control. So if total debt is getting really close to total earnings or total assets, means the company has taken on more debt than than the company has or the company earns within a certain quarter, that can usually be a red sign. Tesla was actually red for a large amount of time before they finally got profitable, and a lot of investors didn't enter exactly because of that, because their debt load was way too high and they weren't profitable yet. So those are the kind of things you want to be looking for in the cash flow. Again, this shows you how much money the company is spending, how much they're saving, how much they are repaying out of their debt. You can see here that they were not repaying any debt for 2 quarters, or excuse me, for 2 years. So those kind of things you can see. There's a lot of statistics that you can watch, but as a general rule of thumb, you want the net income to grow with the revenue. You want earnings per share to be relatively high. You want earnings before interest and taxes to be growing as well, and you want dividends to be quite high. This is something that we have not discussed yet, but definitely something that you should be watching for is dividends. You can find dividends on investing.com. That's really strange. I was sure that I saw them here. So here you can see when the dividend, or what the forward dividend yield is. This is the expected dividend yield for the year. So about 128 per share. All right, so let's have a look at Visa. So we are up having a look at Visa's financial data and trying to make an outcome, trying to have a conclusion to where we want to take the company. So judging by the total revenue, growth has been sustained, growth has been solid. The stock graph should look like a growing 45-degree angle. Operating income is also growing. Earnings per share is expected to be quite high. It broke expectations in 2019. This is 2020. This is this year. So in 2020, the earnings fell, but in general has been growing. I predict this is 2017, right? 2017, 2018, 19, 20, 21. So we have 5 years here in front of us. Expenses have been growing by almost is this 100 million? Thousands. So yeah. EBITDA is growing by about the same margin. Actually, this year see, this is one thing that in earnings before taxes is dropping severely, and taxes have been lowered in the U.S. So paying off interest, I predict lots of companies actually, because during the last few years the interest rate was so low, a lot of companies took on more debt. A lot of companies give out bonds, and actually regular people can buy those bonds, just like a bank takes on your money and gives out credit. They're buying bonds from you, and so you can buy bonds from company for a set amount of profit, and then it was a very good time for companies to sell these bonds, as the interest rate was so low and they could offer low percentages to people buying on. And so it was a good way to get cheap financing during the coronavirus pandemic. And so, of course, Visa took part in that. Reconciled cost of revenue. So the general picture we have is that the revenue is growing. Some debt load has been taken on. Let's see from the balance sheet what I can deduct for you guys. So they got about 13 billion in working capital. They've taken on the most amount of debt and investments that they've done in a long time. Look at that. Since last year, they've taken on $55 billion worth of investments. So what I can gather from this report is that the company is growing. After the coronavirus kind of took the stock market down in 2020, Visa picked up. They invested more money than ever. They bought in they bought out more debt than they have in any of the previous years. Let's have a look at the stock price. So they hit the highest valuation that I think they've ever been. Yeah, after 2020. So all in all, the growth is fantastic in Visa. And some technical analysis would definitely help investors right now. But looking after this correction, and you always want to compare this to the general stock market. So what's going on with, say, the S&P 500. So S&P 500 is at full-blown growth speed. What we want to look for in Visa is also a pickup. What were we looking at before? So I apologize. This is the stock price for Visa. I have no idea what we were looking at before. Yeah, so we're in an up channel, and we recently broke the local highs. I think this was the historical highs. Oh no, Visa was doing much better in 2015. This looks like very much like a stock split. But in the short term, what we see for Visa is we were breaking highs. The trajectory is up higher, making higher lows, higher highs. This looks like a good buy. Maybe somewhere off one of these bottoms would be a good buying opportunity for Visa. Let's check out one of your companies. Let me see if you guys wanted to add some more before we start this. Excuse me. Commitment of traders report, right on. So Life Principle is exactly on point. What we're talking about now is stocks, but you guys can actually, excuse me, you guys can actually get a bunch of information about currencies as well. And the inside information on currencies is just as deep with stocks. You can see how many people bought how much of a certain currency. The only thing is it's at the end of the week. But if you guys are really interested in learning about the COT report, write it in commentaries. Write it in the commentaries of the video. And if we get enough desire from you guys, then we will absolutely give another video. So I'm going to go ahead and play the game. Let's see what kind of stock we're analyzing next. We want to speed things up because we're running out of time, but Facebook is going to be the next and last. So Facebook's ticker is FB. For those of you guys that didn't know, moving on to the financials, we want to have a look at the quarterly report because that'll give us the kind of short-term trajectory of what's happening. And again, because we're trading, we want to have sort of an understanding of where they're going in the short term. I want to go ahead and open up Facebook. So let me put my money where my mouth is. Visa, I do want to get a large, kind of take profit here. It would be best, you know what, I'm going to try to say open from the line. Again, what I've noticed in my trading is I tend to lose money if I make good predictions but not at the right time. So I want to buy somewhere around at 236.50. 236.50. See, that's already $1.50 better for me, and so why not set it up there? So going for that much, auto closing, take profit of about 250. Let's go $750. 785. Perfect, and set that up. Wonderful. So that was for Visa. Next is Facebook. This is also a stock that I do recommend buying, as if looking at the major graph, that's a home run hitter. This is a stock you want to be at. Again, I am worried about that we're at the very top, but if this turns out to be a flag pattern, and you guys all remember what a flag pattern looks like, is if we are trading from this kind of little wedge here, but I do want to buy this more so when it reaches over here. And these are all companies, like the ones that we have here, these are all companies you want to buy, right? If you're looking at our stocks, we went through and hand-picked, hand-selected the stocks to trade, and all of these should be doing good in the next 5 years. All of them will be doing good. Maybe that's a little bit too much of a prediction from me, but in that kind of time, you should be in the plus. So for Visa Valuate, or excuse me, for Facebook, so Facebook is the winner, right? Is the winner. Let's go ahead and open up our Yahoo Facebook. So here we have the income statement. So total revenue is, let's start with the annual and then we'll drop down to the quarterly. Total revenue is a whopping growing. This is why the company stock price is doing so well. They're not growing in millions. They're not growing in 100 millions. They're growing in billions every single year. That's why the company is doing so well. And I believe internet businesses and everything that makes money, like say, what else is a great internet business? You know, some of the programming companies like Oracle, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Netflix, all these companies have unlimited potential in the cybersphere. They have money, they have research and development teams. They just need to pick a good niche. So you should always be watching, especially Amazon. They were going at breakneck speeds trying to come up with new things. And as we saw in Tesla's case, sometimes new things within like 5 to 7 years can become a multi-billion-dollar home run hitter. So in those 7 years, you have time to find those really good stocks, those really good companies to invest in. And that's what we're doing here. So let me focus right now on the income statement, voicing out my opinion. Gross profit is also growing in billions in the last 12 months. Is this? Yeah, that's what I thought. I knew it was not only 6 billion. So operating expenses are growing in billions as well. We can see this that already in the last half a year we've beaten all the previous year's expenses. So it's not going to come as an interest, or it's not going to come as a surprise that this year we're going to beat expenses yet again. Tax provision, they're putting out $5 billion forward right away. Pre-tax income of $38 billion. Basic earnings per share are also growing at an incredible pace. Expenses have already piled over the yearly maximum. This is worrisome. There is definitely something in the valuation of things like Facebook and Google, because you guys saw the major sell-off that it had. Like this year, there have been some major sell-offs. In general, Facebook is just doing amazing. To be honest with you guys, let me show you a graph about Facebook. This has nothing really to do with the earnings report. I'm looking for the Facebook new users graph. All right. All right. It wasn't as easy as I thought, as that I would have liked it to get the information for you guys. So the Facebook new users, actually, can we get that from the income statement? See, this is all financial data. If I was to look at the presentation, I'm sure they would show it to you guys. This is one of the favorite statistics that Facebook loves to show, is that their graph of new users looks exactly like this, like a 45-degree angle, perfectly rising with perfect balance and steadiness and growth. And so this could be one of the reasons. The more users they have, the more they charge for ads, and so the more revenue they grow. But they're diversifying. Like a really good IT company, they're diversifying into like 3D and messenger apps, and so they're doing a really good job in staying afloat and providing some sort of service that does good to the rest of the planet. Net income has really suffered this year. I don't understand why the net interest income is not growing. Let's have a look at the balance sheet. Total assets are really picking up year by year, multi-billion-dollar expansions. This is a really good sign for Facebook. These are assets that even if the company goes bankrupt, which it shouldn't, the assets could be sold off. So they're accumulating constantly growing, sucking in new businesses and new I guess, new assets, and the company's growing. So either way, as an owner of the company, buying some of this stock is worth it for you because you're actually buying, property. Really good, versatile property. So cash flow is not as important to a company that's not cash intensive, right? But the repayment of debt right here, capital expenditure, this is how much they're spending, just clean cash on acquisitions and payments. And repurchase of capital stock, this is important. So they $8 billion worth of stock have been repurchased over the last 12 months. So that's a big kind of, why is Facebook growing? Well, because they're buying their own stock at a breakneck amount. But in 2018, they bought ton of it as well. So I guess they can afford it. And this is good for anybody that already has. If you already have stock, stock just grows in price, for no reason. There you go. So Facebook is definitely a buy in my books as well. I'm going to set up a pending order just like we did at the last time. So around here is a perfect buy, 344, just right exactly at the top level. Notice how the corrections, they do dip down, maybe even a little bit more to the level. See how it does dip down to the previous level? And then this dip as well, it came down to this previous high. So what I do want to have is maybe a little bit higher, maybe not here we were. 345 I think would be optimal, 345. Set up around the same times 10 multiplier and about 1500. There we go, so 2000. These are live trades put on my live account. I think that they should be, unless there's a massive market crash, it should, this line, this kind of tendency. And do you notice one other thing before we finish the webinar? It's increasing in speed. If it was previously touching the line, 3 touches we have, 4, now it stopped touching it. It started going up higher. So it's increasing in speed. We can expect some more crazy volatility. So in a nutshell, that's how you read and how you can use the earnings report. I hope that this webinar leaves you guys with a good impression. It's not something that's too crazy or too out there. You can definitely use the information to increase the trading in your increase your odds in trading. Take trades that are more leaning towards your favor. And again, this is publicly available information, so there's no kind of secrets here. It's all out there and available for you. If you guys need more help and more time, we're actually going to run a few webinars on this topic, on the earnings report, on how you guys can trade better. Now, if I missed your questions, guys, we unfortunately ran the webinar very long. Go ahead and leave your comment or your question in the comments section below, and I will go through and answer each one of them personally. So go ahead and take the time to ask your question there. Other than that, it was a pleasure to be here with you guys. If you left a like, thank you very much. It does help the video get out there and other people can learn from it as well. I wish you guys luck in your trading. I hope this earnings season is the one that brings you good profits, that brings you good emotions, and that you can work to increase your trading and get better at it and get that success, that financial freedom that you guys are all going for. So thank you all so much for your time. My name is Yaroslav Berchenko. Together with Olymp Trade, we wish you guys good luck trading out there and see you all next time. My name is Yaroslav Berchenko. Peace!